Okay, today we are going to be talking about ordered pairs. However, before we do that, I just wanted to go over the vocab words we were introduced to yesterday. Our first one was coordinate plane, and if we open up our flap, your definition should be something similar, does not have to be the exact words. Has two perpendicular number lines. Now, lines are perpendicular if when they intersect or when they cross, they make a 90-degree angle. So if we take a look where these two intersect, all of those angles inside there are a 90-degree angle, which is like a square angle, like the edge of a piece of paper. Okay? And these lines help you find any point on the plane. Now, if you notice, I did go back and add in the word number lines. Today, as we are working with ordered pairs, we'll see a little bit more in detail why these are actually number lines, which we have worked with in the past. Our x-axis is the horizontal line. Horizontal means it's going left to right. So I have my picture over here of a left to right horizontal line. Our y-axis is the vertical line. Vertical, again, means it's going up and down. They talked about the origin. The origin is where these two number lines meet or intersect. Okay, and it happens to be right here in the middle. They did mention the ordered pair, which we'll get into more detail again today, for the origin is 0, 0. So I wanted to put that over there so that I remembered that. And they also mentioned quadrants, and that was our last vocab word. And the quadrants are the sections on a coordinate plane. There are 4 sections and 4 quadrants. And quad means 4. So that does give us a clue that there are 4 of them. And then I just drew my picture over here. The quadrants are numbered and counted counterclockwise. That means if we look at the face of a clock, we go this way to read the clock, right? It goes 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So if it is counterclockwise, it means it's going the opposite direction. So quadrant 1 is here, quadrant 2 is on the top left, quadrant 3 is the bottom left, and quadrant 4 is the bottom right. For this year, we will be dealing with just quadrant 1, but I wanted to just let you guys know where the other 3 quadrants are located, because next year as you move into 6th grade, you'll be moving beyond just quadrant 1. Okay, so make sure you have your vocab words written down. If you need to add anything to them based off what we just went over, you can certainly do that. Okay. So as I said, today we are going to be talking about ordered pairs and graphing ordered pairs. Now, if we look at the name, it says order. That means that the order matters. As we saw in the video yesterday, the X always comes first and the Y always comes second. The X and the Y have to do with the X-axis and the y-axis. So if these two numbers are switched, you end up in a completely different place. As we saw yesterday when they plotted 2, 3 and 3, 2, Max and Moby ended up in 2 completely different places, okay? Because the order matters. X always comes first, Y always comes second. An easy trick to remember this is they are in alphabetical order. When we say the alphabet, we say X before we say Y. Okay, so that's just another clue to remind you that X always comes first. Okay, so X comes first, and again, because we are on the X axis, we are moving left and right. Y comes second, and because it is on the y-axis, it is moving up and down. Okay, so then I just have myself a real quick picture just to remind myself the quadrant numbers, where the origin is, which axis is the X and which one is the Y. And then I just gave myself a little example down at the bottom. So I have the ordered pair 2, 3. 2 is the X coordinate and moves 2 spaces to the right, because remember X is going to move left and right. 3 is a Y coordinate and it moves 3 spaces up, because again Y is going to go up and down the Y axis. Okay, so before you guys move into the lesson, I want you to go ahead and pause the video and draw yourself a little notebook chart that looks like this. Okay, that way you'll be able to keep this as reference in your math binder. All right, so today we are going to be working on graphing ordered pairs. So I have created myself just quadrant 1 of a coordinate plane. And if you take a look, let's look just at the x-axis right now, kind of ignore everything else that's on the page. If we look just at this, it looks like a number line, just like we've done in the past. Remember how when we looked at our definition of the coordinate plane, that it was made up of 2 number lines? Well, if you look closely at this, it is a number line, okay, just like we have worked with in the past. And as you see, we have one going left to right and one going up and down, okay? So we are going to use the numbers on these 2 number lines to help us graph our ordered pairs. So I already have some ordered pairs written down here, and we're going to practice graphing these. Okay, now remember from our chart that we just made that the X always goes first, the Y always goes second. So if I take a look at my first ordered pair, I have 8, 9. This means that my 8 is going to fall somewhere here on my x-axis, and the 9 is going to fall somewhere here on my y-axis. Okay, so in order to graph this point, which has the name A, I am going to go 8 spaces to the right. Okay, so I'm going to use my number line. Here's 8 spaces to the right. And then from this point, from the 8, I'm now going to go up 9 spaces. Okay, so I'm going to follow this line up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so it should be right here where I'm pointing. And if I go over, I've hit the 9. And if I go down, I'm still in line with my 8. So right here, I'm going to draw a point and label it. This is point A. Okay, so that way when I look down here and I say, oh, point A is 8, 9, I have 8, 9, and that's where my point falls. Okay, so let's take a look at point B. We have 5, 2. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go over 5, because remember we do the X first, and I'm going to go up 2. 1, 2. And if I go across and check, I am in line with the 2. I am still in line with the 5. So I'm going to put my dot, label my point, and I now have plotted point B. I'm 5 over, I'm 2 up. Okay? Ooh. Point C looks a little tricky. It's 2, 0. So let me think about this one. This is my X, this is my Y. So I'm going to go to the right 2 places, but my Y is 0. So that means I don't move at all. So my point C is going to be on the x-axis because I've gone right 2 spaces, but my Y didn't change. It stayed 0. Because remember, we always start at the origin. We always start at 0, 0. okay? So keep in mind, it could have also been written the other way. Let me add an extra point. Let me add point E and have 0, do 0, 4. Okay, so we'll get to that one in just a second. Let's take a look at point D. We have 10, 7. So I'm going to go to the right 10, and I am going to go up 7. Oops, I went over 1, so I'm still up from 10. I'm over from 7, so it's going to be right here. And there's my point D. Okay, it's always good to check yourself to make sure you're still in line with where you're supposed to be. Okay, that was a good example. I had accidentally moved over a line. So if someone were to go back and read my point, it wouldn't be where I thought I had put it. Okay, so it's always a good thing before you plot your point just to double check to make sure you are ending up where you think you are. Okay, all right, so now we've gotten to point E, that one that I just added. So now we have 0, 4. So this now means I am going 0 spaces to the right and 4 spaces up. So I'm going to start at my origin. I'm going to go no spaces to the right. So I'm going to stay at 0 and I'm going to go up 4. Okay, so there becomes point E. Okay, so keep in mind with points like C and E, if one of your ordered pairs or one of your coordinates is a 0, it means you are not moving from that location. Okay? All right. Now, if you noticed before we started, I had point M and point N already plotted on my graph, on my coordinate plane, but down here I didn't have their order of pairs. Because sometimes we'll get the ordered pair and we have to plot it, like we did with A through E. And sometimes on our graph, they will already have the points plotted and we have to come up with what is their ordered pair. Okay, so we're going to practice that with M and N. And to find the ordered pair, you're just going to kind of go backwards than what we did over here. So I'm going to put my finger at the point, and I'm going to see how many spaces did it go to the right, and how many spaces did it go up. Okay, so it went over 3 and up 5. So M's ordered pair is 3, 5. Okay, and you want to remember, always put that comma between the two numbers, between your X and Y coordinates, and then they always go inside parentheses. Okay, so I just put my finger on the M. I looked to see how many spaces over did it go, and how many spaces up did it go. All right, so let's take a look at point N. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to trace down, see how many over we went. We went over 7. And we went up 10. Okay, so the ordered pair for N is 7, 10. All right, so this is how you're going to be doing your work today. In your math book, you're going to have an assignment where you do some additional practice with plotting points, like we did on the first part, and by figuring out the ordered pair for points that are already plotted.